It's a pleasure to be back on afikra with the same topic, but I mean, it's still my pleasure to be here. I got really happy when Ruqayya sent me a message and said if I'm willing to speak again. So I had to dig back my notes because I don't remember everything that I've spoke about. So the theme today on my afikra is talking about a man and the works behind him. And I'll introduce a bit the topic on how I arrived there. So we're talking about Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad al-Farahidi, who's known as the shining star of Arabic grammar. So just a big overview, a brief overview just before going that. We were introduced when we were in high school in our Arabic literature class on a concept called the arud, which, funny enough, I was never interested enough to dig deep into it. It's actually a scientific study of poetic meters, which we used to apply in a very mathematical and logical way. So it was kind of fun for me because it was Arabic literature, but it was like math, like solving a riddle. So my sister and I still, until today, find ourselves singing to those rhymes. I don't know if any of you know any of them. Like, I'll just say one very quickly. It's mufa'alatun mufa'alatun fa'ulun, or mustaf'ilun fa'ilun mustaf'ilun fa'ilun. And this is where it stopped for me. We had to memorize those meters and try to analyze poetic meters in high school. So when I signed up to speak at afikra, I was sitting that day to think about which topic I'm going to talk about. And I decided to Google that thing because I was like, maybe now is the time for me to understand what all of that means. So I fell on an article on Rasif 22, which the link is there and we can share it later. So Rasif 22 is an independent media forum that creates content that is related to the 22 Arabic countries, where they bring their personal perspective to them to try to nurture a global readership. And I really got excited because they remind me of the concept of afikra, because they try to bring together topic related to the Arab world. And I'm like, wow, that's great. I'm using that. So only to understand that the man that was behind the concept of arud, which I was originally looking into, had a much bigger influence on the Arab world. And some people still say that the Arabic language owes a lot to this man. So who's this man? This man is Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad al-Farahidi. So he's a man who lived in the 8th century. He's born in Oman, and he later moved to Basra, Iraq. So he was one of the earliest Arab lexicographer and philologist, which is the study of language. And he was a leading grammarian of Basra, Iraq. Some say that this man is the greatest linguistic in the Arab world in the 8th century Common Era. So he's known for two major contributions. The first one is called Kitabilayen. Kitabilayen is the first Arabic dictionary in the Arabic language, and is the current standard that we use today for the harakat. And harakat is the vowels in the Arabic script. When I went into this topic, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to talk about arud. I'm going to talk about Kitabilayen because that's pretty thick, basically. So he's also credited for the invention of al-arud, which is the study of Arabic prosody. And he's considered the first person to write about poetic meter and musicology in the Arabic language. So his influence was at the basis of prosody in the Persian, the Turkish, the Urdu languages as well. He's known as a genius and a shining star of Arabic grammar, and he was not only apparently like a scholar but an inventor of very original ideas. That's why it was pretty controversial about his topic. So I'm going to present a bit about Kitabilayen. So Kitabilayen is the first Arabic language dictionary. And they say that the Arabic alphabet is a derivative of the Nabatean variation of the region, which is descendant of the Phoenician alphabet, amongst others, that gave rise to the Hebrew alphabet and the Greek alphabet, etc. So Ain, for those who don't speak Arabic, Kitab means the book, Ain means a water source in the desert, as well as I. So it has two meanings in the Arabic language. So what's interesting about Kitabilayen is that Al-Farahidi decided to create his own phonetic system. So as he took the Arabic alphabet, as he took on the Arabic alphabet, he decided to change the whole pattern of how the letters were organized. And he created a new phonetic system that basically, what really interested me, follows a pattern of pronunciation. So basically, all of the letters in his alphabet are arranged according to the place we articulate the letter in the mouth. And actually, when I was presenting this forward, I had a plan to make everyone say it, but then I didn't do that. So maybe now is a good chance to do that. So according to his system, the order begins with the deepest alphabet in the throat when we're pronouncing them. And the last letter of the alphabet is the last one where we articulate in the mouth. So the deepest one is Ain, that's why it's called Kitabilayen. And the last one is Mim, because we pronounce it with our lips. So basically in his dictionary, what he did is that for each of the letters of the alphabet, he has one book. And I even tried to dig out these books, and I can find like almost 500 to thousands of pages in each of those books. And basically, what he did is also find all of the different permutations of different letters. So he would take two of them, the three of them, and then every permutation. So we have the whole lexicon of Arabic language. So if you can see the picture on my screen, I'm just going to try to pronounce them now. And if you can, back at home, because you're muted, you can understand how the letters are moving in your mouth. And it's pretty interesting. So the deepest one is Ain. And Ain comes from the deep of your throat. And then you have Ha and Kha. And those also come from your throat. And Ghain. So if you say those letters, they actually come from the deep of your throat. Then if we go back upper to the soft palate, there's Qaf and Kaf. So those come still very deep, but those are the next letters. And then there's Sad, Dad, Jim. Those come from the palate when you pronounce them. And then from your teeth and the tip of your tongue, you have Shin, Sin, Zain. And then you have Ta, Ta, Dal. This is from they call it prepalate. And then from the gums, you have Za, Tha, and Dal. You use your tongue as well. And then from the apex of your tongue, you have Lam, Noon, Ra. And at the end, you have Ba, Mim, and Fa, which is very funky, I found. So this is how he organized his alphabet. So he outlined the phonetics of Arabic, basically, and he created kind of rules, not the system, all of it. So the dictionary, like I said, has 26 books. And he has one book for each letter. And the number of chapters in each of the book is according to the numbers of, I need to go to the next slide. Okay. And the number of chapters in each of the book accords with the number of radicals, which is basically the arrangements and the anagrams between those letters. So the intention of this man was basically to produce a complete lexicon of the Arabic language, which basically after that expanded into a vast, almost limitless vocab in the Arabic language. So he tried to rationalize this practice of lexicography, and it was quite mathematical. So if you actually open the book, there's this whole permutation and that. So I was also saying earlier that the Arabic alphabet is a derivative of Nabatean in the region, which I don't really understand a lot about. So when I was reading, it was kind of the first time that I was going through that. But basically what led to the Hebrew alphabet and the Greek alphabet later on. So this beautiful man is also next, is also, he also wrote a book on cryptography, which he called like the book of cryptographic messages. He also distinguished himself with a lot of philosophical views. This man was known to arrive like his wisdom age by the age of 40, which is when the Islamic prophet Muhammad began his call. And And what did I want to say? And he's also, he has a legacy of creating the arud, which is what I was talking originally about, the study of Arabic prosody. So he's credited for the study of poetic meters, and he wrote a book about it, but is no longer in existence. But we still follow his teachings because they were shared across the years. So he's the first one who actually codified the meters in Arabic poetry, and he's known to be kind of an outstanding genius in the Muslim world and considered as a pioneer in the field of cryptography, especially in the Arabic language. For those who don't know a lot about arud, so basically the whole concept is scanning the syllables and mixing them between vowels and non-vowels, and then trying to match them to those numbers of meters that he had set in stone. Other than that, yeah, I mean, the majority of 80 to 90% of classical Arabic poetry today is composed using the 4 meters that were written by al-Farahidi. And we still use today his standards for harakat. So I found really interesting to really go back to the Arabic language and really understand the roots of where our alphabet. Now, the current day alphabet doesn't use the same order. I think that in the future, when it was passed through, they rejected or they completely let go of how he had organized them. But I thought it was worth mentioning. And that's it.